So to put forward a lane of thought that I know is not the majority's position, but I feel does need to be at least stated. I think that a lot of what I'm seeing, and I having just received this draft from Councillor Bowerman a couple of hours ago, I've only been able to skim it, but I think a lot of what is being requested in here has already, there's already been a lot of work done to show that many of the premises here are flawed. I think that while adding additional lanes very briefly and temporarily reduces traffic, there are plenty of studies that have shown that it really creates induced demand and actually increases traffic and congestion. Also, statements that we shouldn't be relying on increasing high capacity transit or setting such a high bar for high capacity transit that it's almost unreachable takes that out of the running as a way for us to help create more transportation options. I think that we do need to replace the I-5 bridge, and I'm supportive of trying to make it higher capacity, but we need to recognize that we can add a ton of bridges and a ton of crossings, but where people are going is still largely the same. And so there will continue to be congestion along the I-5 corridor because that is where most of the economic activity is that people are trying to get to in our region. I think it is much more forward thinking to try to figure out ways to give people reliable travel times in the near term future, while also thinking much more creatively about how people get around our region than continuing to rely solely on single passenger vehicles. And I recognize that this is going to be a losing proposition in trying to talk about this with this council, so I don't necessarily need to debate it, but I did want to put on the record that that is a perspective that does have a lot of backing and evidence behind it. And I would be concerned about putting forward a county statement that is not actually in line with what others in the region are thinking, with what other jurisdictions are thinking. And instead, I'd be more interested in trying to work towards something where we can try to find some consensus and be a part of building a project that meets multiple needs, even if it doesn't meet every specific need that individuals on this council have.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to respond to that because, Councillor Lentz, there isn't a single word that you said that I disagree with. It's just that to be forward thinking, and we're already 20 years behind, the additional capacity will come from a circular route, something that goes from Longview to Salem, something that is a bypass, a true bypass that almost every other city, metropolitan area in the nation has. We don't have it. And so what you said is absolutely accurate, and I'm including those thought processes, and that's what makes it so complicated. You know, it's not just our state. It's not just a state issue. It's an Oregon issue, and that puts it beyond our control immediately. And it's not just a state issue between a bi-state. It's a national issue because this is a strategic corridor along the West Coast. And so I've never viewed 205 and 5 as separate corridors. They're really one corridor along the West Coast. We really truly haven't added another corridor that's in parallel or bypasses this Portland, Vancouver area. Not everyone goes to Portland. Not everyone goes to Vancouver. Some people just want to drive to the north or to the south or to the east or west. So that's where the short-sightedness has come in. We're all so focused on just doing what should be business as usual, keeping our capital infrastructure maintained and replaced when necessary, that we've lost sight of the ability to build that other corridor that we really are so far behind on. So it's not really foresight because we've missed that opportunity 20 years ago. We are now trying to play catch up. So I think it's important for us to speak up and inform the RTC, let our position be known with Oregon, and let our position be known with our both our senators and congressional delegates that represent us before Congress, especially if we do have an infrastructure package that we can dip into or apply to. This is something that we are so far behind in. We need to get caught up quickly.
Thank you for that, Counselor. And I don't think I'm trying to think about what I said. I don't think that I said anything against necessarily talking about a third corridor. I don't think that will solve many of the congestion problems that you're discussing here, but I welcome that. My recommendation for a resolution about the Interstate Bridge project would be that we keep it about the Interstate Bridge project, and let's pursue talking about a third corridor. I think that some of the resistance that you have been met with regard to the third corridor has been that, and for understandable reasons, a lot of the conversations have been at the time when we're talking about the I-5 project. And I say for understandable reasons because that seems like a reasonable time to talk about it. So, but I think that there is a lot of concern that if we talk about that instead of this, that then this won't get done. And so that may be where some of that resistance comes from. And so I would recommend, and I'd be supportive. I am supportive of having the conversation about the third corridor. I would like to separate them, not because they're completely unrelated, but because I think we'll get further if we talk about them separately.